bed completely naked, in a way that sent a shockwave to Jumoke's entire being. For a second, she couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the Jumoke came home early and discovered her twin children naked in bed. But the horrifying truth behind the scenes is what left everyone screaming in terror. Jumoke had always carried the weight of her responsibilities as a mother, wife, and businesswoman in Lagos. Her days at the market were long and tiring, never giving her any rest between managing her fabric shop and taking care of customer.
Sorry, but I'm gonna say, you gotta appreciate a woman for doing this. Cause not all women got the courage to do what she do. Not all women have the courage to stand up to men and just do their own thing. Cause not all women got that partner that actually there for them and actually ride or die for them.
But tonight, something felt different.
Wait,
Something unsettling hung in the humid Lagos air. So she decided to go home earlier than normal. The tiredness of dealing with customers and traffic of Lagos already pulling at her tired legs as she pushed open the metal gate. The compound greeted her with an unusual silence, very different from the normal chaos of generators humming and her children playing outside while waiting for her. Everywhere was silent. As she opened the door of her house, her sister Shola, the ever-reliable help who had moved from the village to her with the children, stood waiting by the stairs, her face pale and her hands shaking nervously. Sister Jumoke, there's something you need to know,
tell me.
Shola began,
her
voice low and trembling. Jumoke dropped her bag by the stairs, a frown creasing her brow as she took her shoes off to free her feet from the stress of her high heels. What is it? What happened? She asked, though deep down she feared the answer. Shola hesitated, looking over her shoulder to make sure no one else was around. Her whisper was barely audible. I was downstairs preparing lunch. I heard noises from Bami's room. I went upstairs and when I opened the door, Bami wasn't wearing any clothes, she was naked, and Bola was there. Bola got...
What were y'all thinking? What y'all were thinking? You gotta think, alright? This is your sister. So what you thinking? You tell me y'all been on the internet and y'all been watching, you know what? And then y'all say, oh, so if they do it, it's right for us do it. No. It's not right to be doing this stuff with your sister. It's not right to be doing this with your sister. It's disgusting and it's all wrong.
Got up from the bed and ran out as soon as I opened the door.
It's too late now.
Jumoke stared at her sister, her mind trying to process what she just heard. It felt as though the floor beneath her had shifted and she was about to fall through it. Are you sure, Shola? Are you really sure of what you are saying? She asked, her voice betraying her. Shola was shocked that Jumoke did not believe her. With frustration, she responded, I'm sure I know what I saw, and I would never lie about something so serious.
You can't lie about that. You can't lie about that.
She had no more strength in her legs to stand. She sat down on the stairs. Shola had always been trustworthy, but the image she painted about her innocent children involved in something so inappropriate was too much to take in for a moment. She just stood there staring at her sister, trying to make sense of it all. Jumoke thought to herself, Bolas and Bami were only 9 years old. They are twins. They are curious, but could they really? No, it's not possible. Jumoke got up and walked upstairs and found her children on the couch sitting together. As soon as the twins saw their mother, they jumped up and hugged her. For a moment, she almost forgot what her sister told her about the twins. With a steady voice, Jumoke said, We need to talk. Auntie Shola told me something, and I need to know the truth.
For one, yeah, when you 9, so, yeah, you'd be curious and all, but I've never seen a 9-year-old be that curious to do something that crazy with their sibling. Who is that curious to do something that crazy? I wanna know. I wanna know y'all. If y'all that curious to do something with y'all sibling, then y'all need some help. Like, y'all really need to go to church and pray to God and see like where your mindset is.
Truth. The twins looked up at her, their wide eyes full of innocence. What did she say? Bola asked, his voice small but curious. She told me that something happened in Bami's room today when both of you were together, Jumok responded. She said you were naked. The room was silent for a long time. Then Bola shook his head and said, "No, Mommy, that's a lie. We didn't do anything." His sister agreed with him. Auntie Shola is lying, Bami said. The children said with conviction and certainty and no guilt in their eyes.
They try to make it seem like they actually telling the truth.
The children trying to force them to tell the truth, but they were firm. Mommy,
but they're scared. They're scared. That's why. That's why they try not lie.
Jumoke stood there looking at her children. They seemed so confident in their innocence. But Shola wasn't the kind of person to make up stories like this. She had no reason.
I don't know.
That night, Jumoke laid awake in bed, her mind racing. She hadn't told her husband yet. Whatever it was, Jumoke was determined to find out. As the days went by, Jumoke carried on like nothing had happened. Jumoke thought Bami and Bolas were always so close. Since birth, it wasn't unusual for them to be together at all times.
Yeah.
She tried to push aside the unease that had lingered in the back of her mind. A few weeks later, as Jumoke was cleaning Bola's room, her eyes wandered to his drawer. Something inside her pulled her toward it. She slowly opened the drawer and began organizing the clothes.
Okay.
Inside the drawer, she saw something very shocking. It was a pair of Bami's underwear folded neatly amongst Bola's.
How dumb are you feeling now?
His mother's. Her breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced. How did Bami's underwear end up here, she asked. She called out Bola so loudly. Bola ran to his room. What's wrong, he asked nervously. Jumoke held up the underwear, her hand trembling slightly. Why is this here, she demanded, her voice mixed with disbelief. Bola's eyes widened, more confusion washing over his face.
You don't know what to say.
Mom. I swear. I don't
See,
know
I
how
told
that
you.
got
I
there.
told you. He didn't know what to say, so all he said was, I don't know.
Jumoke said angrily, her voice
When you
trembling
say I
with
don't
anger
know,
and confusion.
then you really gonna really
cried,
making
his voice
it
cracking.
real,
Maybe Shola put it there by accident
real.
when she was folding our clothes. Jumoke's heart pounded in her chest as she studied her son's face, searching for any signs of deceit. His eyes were full of fear, his body trembling. Jumoke rushed back to her room and collapsed to her bed, looking at the ceiling. She just couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was looming over her family. When Benga returned from work, Jumoke told him everything about the underwear. Benga listened quietly, his brow furrowed. That's ridiculous, he said, his anger flaring in his voice. They're just children, Jumoke. You're overthinking this. Benga walked away from his wife. Jumoke was confused at her husband's response. A few days later, Jumoke decided to leave work early again. When she got home, the house was very silent. She dropped her bag on the chair and called out to Bami and Bola, but there was no response. Her heart raced and she felt an eerie, unsettling quietness. She walked through the
4 to 5, and you know your kid not gonna do nothing wrong because they're good kids, right? Then you come home early before 4 o'clock, right? You come home around like 2, 3-ish, right? And the house so quiet. You can drop a little dime and there will be no sound, right? But you know your kids are in the house, right? Then it's like you thinking, hold on. So, why so quiet? And my kids are in the house. And I yelled their name and they ain't coming. So, you gotta think. You know what's going on.
Living room, her eyes moving everywhere to find her children, but they were nowhere. She went upstairs, walking quietly as her heart raced. She noticed that Bami's bedroom door was slightly open. Jumoke froze for a moment. Fear rushed through her body. She slowly pushed the door open. What she saw made her stomach turn. Bolas and Bami, her beautiful, innocent children, were lying on the bed completely naked. In a way that sent a shockwave to Jumoke's entire being. For a second, she couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. Trying to make sense of the eyes wide in panic. What the hell are you doing? Jumoke screamed. Tears filled Bami's eyes and Bola's lips shook. We didn't do anything, Mommy, Bola pleaded.
If y'all ain't doing nothing, right? Then why y'all not wearing no clothes if y'all ain't doing nothing? Explain that. Explain why y'all not wearing no clothes if y'all ain't doing nothing, right? That's what I gotta say. If your kids ain't doing nothing, right? Then why is their clothes off? Explain to me. Cause I wanna know. Right? Don't look at your cousin, your aunt. No girl in your family should be looking like, no. Oh, ew. Ew.
His voice shaking as he fumbled to cover himself.
He fumbled the bag. He fumbled to tell a lie. He couldn't tell a good lie.
Don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. Bami sobbed, pulling her knees to her chest. We didn't do anything bad. Jumoke's rage faltered. She looked at her baby, terrified and shaken. Bad? Jumoke couldn't take it anymore. She turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Later that evening, after the children were in bed, she finally told Benga. She didn't want to, but this was too serious to ignore. Benga listened with a deep frown on his face. He clenched his fist and paced the room. I can't believe it, he muttered, shaking his head. This needs to stop, he screamed. Jumoke started crying, not knowing what to do. Benga went to his children's rooms to confront them. The children kept saying they didn't do anything.
Like, y'all want them to start loving, dating people, right? But y'all expect them to actually take it a step level and start doing it to each other. Like, once they get to like a higher age, you want them to do it with other people that they got a connection with, a feeling with. Right? Not a connection and feeling with your own blood. Doing it with your own blood is weird. When did they pick up the habit? Because this is a bad habit.
Wrong. Benga was even more confused. He told them that it was not right for them to be naked, holding each other in bed. Jumoke couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was wrong. As she was standing there, a thought of putting a hidden camera without telling her husband came to her mind. She was determined to find out what was going on in her home and with...
Kim, that's actually smart. Okay, your son already lied, your daughter don't want to confess, so the best thing to do is put a hidden camera in your kid's room and see what really going on so y'all can actually get to the bottom of it and see what they really doing to why they're doing this stuff.
With her children. She installed the cameras to cover every corner of their home without telling anyone. She came back home one day. As she headed upstairs, she could hear some sounds. She quietly made her way upstairs. As climbed the last step on the stairs, the bedroom door creaked open slightly, and then she saw her husband stepping out of the room, his shirt half buttoned. Benga froze as he saw Jumoke, his eyes wide with surprise. Babe, what are you doing here? His voice unsteady. Jumoke looked at her husband, unkempt look. His trousers were wrinkled and his belt loosely hanging from the belly loops. Wait! She stepped forward closer to him, unable to take her eyes away from his rumpled clothes. Benga shifted uncomfortably from his wife. I came home early too. I wanted to check on the kids. You know, just to see if they were doing anything crazy, he said. Jumoke rushed into the children's room to check on them. Bami was reading on her bed while Bola was in his room playing his game. They children looked staged and unreal. She knew they were pretending. Jumoke just could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Benga, suspecting that Jumoke wasn't buying his story, asked, "Is everything okay, babe?" Jumoke nodded yes. Benga held her hands and walked her away from the children's room.
I'm confused. I don't feel like it's so much different scenario, so much different scene going one way, going this way, that way, this way, this way. Like it's too much. It's too much. Like I'm confused. What is going on? It's too much going on in one scene. It's like really more than one stuff going on in one different area. I don't know. Like, bro, now we got the father in the situation and the dad in the situation. Now, like, bro, it making me think he has something to do with it.
He tried to lighten her mood, talking about his day at work and offering to make dinner. But Jumoke was very silent. When everyone had gone to bed, Jumoke opened the camera app to view camera footage. As she watched the events that unfolded that day, she was in shock and her stomach sank as chill ran down her spine. Jumoke couldn't breathe, her entire body trembled. Tears started streaming down her face. She had seen enough. She had all the evidence she needed. Jumoke couldn't sleep. She sat on the couch in the living room staring blankly at her phone. Her thoughts were trapped in an endless loop of anger, pain, and disbelief. When Shola woke up the next morning, she came downstairs and saw her sister sitting on the couch. "Good morning, sister," but Jumoke ignored her. Shola went over to make sure her sister was fine. "Are you all right, sister? Can you hear me?" Jumoke slowly turned to Shola and yelled, "Don't touch me!" Benga walked in just in time. "What's going on here?" he asked. Jumoke stood up, her fist clenched tightly. She moved closer to Benga with unrestrained anger. "I will show you what's wrong." She grabbed her phone and opened the camera app for them to watch. The video showed Benga, her husband, walking into Shola's room. They both undressed and laid on the bed, their bodies intertwined. Then a different angle of another camera also caught the twins tiptoeing to Shola's room door to peek through the crack and watch everything that unfolded in the room. They all watched the children's innocent faces staring at something they couldn't possibly understand. Bami and Bola, standing outside the door, watching what happened next, ripped through Jumoke's heart. Bami and Bolas, unaware of the gravity of what they had seen, imitated the scene they had just witnessed. Each time there was no one, they would imitate the scene by taking off their clothes and lay down together in the bed.
"That's why! No! No, your husband was cheating with your sister. No! No!
2 days later.
You came home early. Your son and daughter wasn't really doing it. They were imitating your husband cheating on you with your sister. Nah!
Bami even mimicked the sounds she had heard Shola make. They immediately knew that the children were simply copying what they had seen their father and auntie do. When the video ended, Benga and Shola stood frozen with their mouth wide open.
They weren't really doing it. They were just showing
Jumoke's hand
their
twitched
mother
to her side,
mother
fingers
of her
curling into a
husband
tight
cheating
fist.
on you.
Her heart pounded in her chest, her blood boiling with rage, betrayal, and disgust. With a sudden fierce movement, Jumoke stepped forward and slapped Shola hard across the face, and Shola staggered back. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes. "How could you?" Jumoke's voice trembled with fury, her eyes burning with tears. "I gave you everything. I pay you to take care of my children, a place to stay, and I feed you, and this is how you repay me? By sleeping with my husband? By betraying your own sister?" Shola stood numb as tears streamed down her face. "Sister Jumoke, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for any of this to happen."
You're sorry? You're sorry that she found out? You dumb. You dummy. You stupid.
She stammered. Benga, who was shocked beyond words, immediately spoke up. "Calm down, Jumoke, please. That it was a mistake. Let's not make this worse than it already is." "What?
You just seen that because she found out."
Jumoke screamed at him, her eyes narrowing with fury. "Benga, you betrayed me with my own sister." Without warning, Jumoke slapped him across the face harder than she had slapped Shola. Benga stumbled back, one hand holding his cheek. Benga's face twisted, but he didn't say anything as there was nothing he could say that would fix what he had done. Shola sobbed, her voice shaky as she tried to step closer, kneeling before Jumoke. "Please, sister, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." But Jumoke's heart was hardened. There was no forgiveness left to give. "Pack your things and get out of my house," Jumoke said. Benga stepped close to Shola and tried to help her up. Jumoke yelled at him. "Don't you dare touch her." Jumoke left them and walked upstairs. The commotion woke the twins up. Bolas and Bami had been quiet and confused by the tension they heard, but didn't fully understand what was going on. Jumoke looked at them, her heart aching for the innocence they had lost. "I need to talk to you about what happened," she said to them. The children looked at her, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. "What you saw happen between Daddy and Auntie Shola was wrong. I want you to know that you should never ever copy that again." "Mommy,
Yeah.
are we in trouble?" they asked. "No, you are not in trouble, but don't lay down without clothes again with your brother." "Okay." The children listened to her and agreed to not do that again. Jumoke began the process of divorce. There was no going back from this. The marriage had been destroyed beyond repair. Shola called numerous times to apologize, but Jumoke refused to allow her back into her life. Shola called their mother to intervene, but
It's your
Jumoke
fault.
informed their mother that she had forgiven Shola and Benga, but she would never allow people that destroy her life to come back into her life. Jumoke's focus now was on her children and